So
Makes
all
sense.
these things were the challenges which the industry has faced, and therefore the invoice discounting was not very successful process in India. Factoring was a loss-making proposition in India versus China,
Mhm.
wherein almost 8% of the GDP
Right.
operates on factoring.
Wow.
Whereas in India, it is less than 0.3. The other big thing was that this is the unique mechanism wherein the banks have to come and bid for the invoice discounting.
Mhm.
This was unique to India. It's a beautiful process for an SME that his risk is reduced, his cost of doing business is reduced.
Mhm.
It's very easy that he doesn't have to sign paperwork with 60 banks. So the volume of transactions will be this much. You can imagine that we are doing about 2.5 lakh crore, 3 lakh rupees average invoice, or 2.5 lakh rupees average invoice. So it will be running into crore of transactions.
Amazing. So this is essentially like creating an ecosystem that does an AUM equivalent of what one of the largest NBFCs in India does in a year. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Fintech Ki Baat Dil Se. In this episode, we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Sundeep Mohindru, who is the founder and CEO of one of the largest TReDS platform, M1xchange. Hi, Mr. Sundeep. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi Shreyas, thank you for inviting me, and my pleasure to be part of this.
It's a pleasure having you, sir. Once again, thank you for your time. Having said that, right, M1xchange has been a prominent organization operating in the TReDS space, working on the invoice discounting part and all of those things, right? So let's kind of we have a very interesting episode planned wherein you kind of demystify what essentially TReDS is, how does it operate, how is it regulated, and all about invoice discounting as well. But before we get into that, we'd love to hear a bit about you. What has your journey been like, and what led you to be where you are today right now? So over to you, a bit of an overview, please.
Yeah, thanks, Shreyas. So I am by qualification a chartered accountant, and I have been connected with the technology from my early days. This is my second venture. My first venture, which I started in 2002, called Mind Integrated Solutions, is running successfully today also.
Wow.
And that is into shared services on finance and HR. We offer SaaS platforms for payables, receivables, payroll, compliances, all these features within the country, and we appear in the top 5 service providers in the country with the kind of volumes we are doing.
Got it.
Having completed that, then now that company is being run by my co-founder Vivek and with Saurabh. And then I branched out into set up TReDS, which is M1xchange,
Right.
Under a license from RBI in 2017. And so now the two companies put together are running successfully in parallel.
Amazing. So a CA with a knack for technology, that is indeed very unique. How did that come to be? Like, how did you get into the tech side of things from core finance?
So in the when we had set up Mind in the early days, a lot of multinationals were coming into India at that time, and most of them had an ERP system which they were getting from outside India as a platform, and we had to, for serving them in running the Indian accounting piece, we had to start learning their way of doing accounting. And that's when we realized that the India has to progress towards the next wave of managing the accounting on the large ERP softwares.
Makes sense.
We ran that for a few years, and then very quickly, suited to the Indian needs, the ERPs had to take a lot of new innovations wherein the ERP could be suited to Indian needs. And that's when the SaaS technology came in, that could we put layer of technology on top of ERP system,
Right.
like an app which could do things to simplify ease of doing accounting in India, compliances in India, and then it could transfer the data to the SAP or the Oracle.
Right.
And that's when SaaS modules came into picture, and we built technology teams in mind, which started working on that, and that's how the technology journey has been.
Amazing. And I think this entire piece was a silent trend happening in the late 2000s and early 2010s, when a lot of foreign companies came in with their own way of operating and accounting, and that is essentially where a lot of ERPs also came in.
Absolutely, you're right. So this has been a good period between, I would say, 2000 to 2008. This has been the very good period in India where all these ERP systems became very prevalent.
Indeed, indeed. And from there on to your journey of building M1xchange, what led to that segue, and how did you discover this entire space?
Yeah, Shaz. So Shaz, I have been running accounts payable for mid and large corporates in my earlier role, and there we have seen that the suppliers to large corporates always had delayed payments.
Right.
For whatever reason, whether the invoice approval, whether the processes that took time. And we used to see that there's a lot of struggle and a follow-up that the suppliers used to do with us as a processing entity.
Right.
Then there was a white paper from Reserve Bank of India in 2015/2016, which talked about giving a solution to the SMEs for solving their delayed payments. That means we could enable their payments immediately or quickly, and a concept paper of TReDS was released by RBI.
Understood.
I got a chance to read through it, and in those days, Fintech and these words were not there.
True.
And when I read it, I thought it is a very good solution for the country. I mean, all SME, all enterprises would love it, because everyone has a receivable and they want to discount it, or they want early payment.
Of course.
And with that background, I looked upon it like a solution for the economy, for the country, and I pitched for the case to RBI that if I could get a license to run it. And God helped, RBI selected 3 participants, out of which one of us was Mind, and we therefore got an opportunity to work closely with RBI to set it up in the country. And so as the name is, TReDS is Trade Receivable Discounting System. So every enterprise, a small enterprise which has receivables, they can use TReDS to discount their invoices.
Got it. Interesting. So would love to hear what was your first impression of the white paper that came out, and what was the kind of solution that you wanted?
Yeah, so the white paper that came out talked about factoring as a subject, that the invoice discounting could be done using the factoring solution. And it referred to a methodology which is being run in Mexico. And Mexico government portal exists, which essentially gives the same service, and it has a successful portal. So when I read about it, I also did my research on that Mexico portal, and one liked it. However, there were a lot of items which were not very clear in those days. How the fund movement will happen, how will banks come and solve the legal process in a digital way. Because here everything is getting done in a digital format.
True.
So what will be the legal parlance or sanctity if tomorrow in the court of law a bank has to use it? So all those points were not very clear in the white paper. White paper was just a concept at that time, and one had to work very closely with the regulator to build it step by step, and also in parallel the technology serving it. So it's been a 12 to 15 month journey building it. That means 2016 and half of 2017 went in that, and then we launched it in 2007.
Got it. Understood. So this sounds super interesting, and from the point of view of MSMEs, if this is enabling them to receive funds a lot more seamlessly and a lot more easily in a timely manner, I think this could have a great impact. Having said that, just to kind of deep dive a bit more into understanding at a conceptual level what exactly is happening in the ecosystem, would want to hear from you what exactly is the TReDS platform, how are the exchanges related, and then probably what was a need that was specifically identified that kind of brought up the entire ecosystem.
You're right. Before we go to TReDS, let's understand that if someone has a receivable from any customer, he or she can go to a bank and get receivables discounted, which another way to call it is invoice discounting.
Right.
And the traditional way of doing it has been a manual process wherein SME goes to a bank oblique NBFC and expresses that they want to get it discounted. Now, if an SME or any enterprise is located in city A, let's say in Delhi, and the customer is based in Chennai or let's say in Calcutta, then and if the SME enterprise goes to the bank that is near to their office in Delhi and asks for that the invoice has to be discounted for TVS Group sitting in Chennai, or let's say any other company, Tata Steel sitting in Chennai, in Calcutta, then a bank or an NBFC will not have a wherewithal to verify whether this invoice is genuine or not.
True.
And also to verify whether Tata Steel or TVS Group has really accepted the invoice, the goods have been really delivered, and the quality is good. There will not be any dispute on the invoice. So for doing that, they have to call TVS, they have to call Tata Steel and verify that. Now, who to call in Tata Steel? It's a large company. Who to call in TVS, and whether the right person is giving the right information. So all these things were the challenges which the industry has faced, and therefore the invoice discounting was treated more like treated not very successful process in India. Factoring was a loss-making proposition in India versus China, wherein almost 8% of the GDP operates on factoring.
Wow.
Whereas in India, it is less than 0.3%.
Interesting.
Okay, so if you therefore compare, there's a huge scope in India for growth, and this is a good engine for SMEs to grow.
Definitely.
Right. With this perspective, this paper was released. When we read it, we had to work, like I said, with the regulator, building it up stack by stack. Because in factoring, when a SME is selling its receivables to a bank or to a factoring company, then it is assigning the rights of collection to that bank or a factoring company. Collection meaning collection of those receivables. Now that right has to be legally enforced. And when, like in the previous problem, I said one doesn't know the relevance of the invoice. That means genuinity of the invoice. Now transfer of rights to collect is also the second relevant point. So the relevance of the legal parlance of the invoice has to be brought into the system, and that's when we had to work in setting up this infrastructure with the regulator. That whatever invoices will come on the platform and transferred to the bank, they will be legally verified and they will be legally enforceable. Only then bank will have confidence to do this business. Otherwise, bank will not have confidence to do this digitally. So we worked on all of this, like I said. The other big thing was that this is the unique mechanism wherein the banks have to come and bid for the invoice discounting. This was unique to India. If we had not come across a case earlier wherein the banks could bid. So convincing a bank that they have to create a structure for bidding was in itself a task. I mean, TReDS is a marketplace. So on M1xchange, the banks come and place the best price that they can offer for discounting. We had to work with each bank to convince them that this is doable from two counts. One is the digital count, one is the legal count. And the third piece was that the bank had limited interest because we had started from ground zero. So bank has so much of other large items to attend that this was not a priority in their radar. So it took us few years to build this kind of business and convince the banks. And today we are fortunate that we have the largest bank of the country, which is SBI, and all the other following banks, PNB, Canara Bank, and so on and so forth, Bank of India, and all private banks and all foreign banks. They're all on the platform live and buzzing.
Amazing.
Now we appear in the business plan discussions of each bank in terms of the volumes we can bring to the bank. So therefore, it's become a successful feature, and it's now a growing phenomena in the country that more and more of the people are adopting it.
No, I think this is super insightful, and from what I understand, aggregating the invoices and giving them that the trust factor, bringing in the trust factor by getting it verified from the actual party that's going to pay for it later on, that's going to make good for it, adds a lot of value from the bank's perspective as well. And I think that is given that, and the opportunity for banks to bid on it actually gives a competitive and a fair pricing advantage to the MSMEs as well. Having said that, I think this would be the perfect time for us to get into the nitty-gritties of how the system operates and talk about the journey of an invoice. First, from the perspective of an MSME, and secondly, from the perspective of a bank, on both the side of the user experiences.
Right. So Shreyas, every SME has to get onboarded onto M1 TReDS. Now for onboarding, we have digitized over a period of time the whole process so simple that a sole proprietor MSME can get onboarded in 3 minutes.
Right.
Okay, so he doesn't have to enter his details. Just by giving his PAN number and the GST number, we are able to extract his details from the golden sources, and he gets onboarded within 3 minutes, and he is ready to transact within 3 to 5 minutes, like I said.
All using the India Stack and the GST APIs that are available.
Absolutely. And we are also connected with the Udyam portal of the government, and which helps us to know his status and other related details of SME. Now, having done that, the SME has a choice to select that which all customers he wants to get his invoices discounted.
Right.
So he may have 10 customers, 11 customers, 20 customers. So now on M1, he has a choice of about 1,500 medium to large companies for which he can get his invoices discounted.
Understood.
Now, right. So once he selected that, now thereafter he can just put his invoices for which he has delivered goods and services on the portal. And that invoices he can put using his mobile phone. He just needs to click a picture and upload the invoice, and invoice will automatically through the portal goes to his customer for approval. Okay, so that means we have, in the previous example that I was taking, whether it is Tata Steel or whether it is TVS Group, both starting with T coincidentally, they both will, if the customer has put invoices for them, the invoice will go as a workflow to them for approval. And from Tata Steel and from TVS, we would have a specified user from the company who will get a link that these invoices have come for your approval.
Understood.
And now these specified users are allocated by the company via board resolution. So these are not just that anybody random can log in and give the approval, which was the problem which I explained earlier, that in the manual process, the banks didn't know who's approving the invoice. Now it is digitally done by the specified user of that corporate.
Got it.
And once approved, that means SME has given the goods, the user has approved,
Mm-hmm.
Now the invoice is good for discounting by the bank.
Right.
Okay.
So just makes the invoice officially accepted, so as to say in the parlance.
Absolutely. Now, if in this example, if at this stage
Mm-hmm.
the corporate customer has any deductions to be made
Right.
on account of anything, whether it's advance, whether it's quality issues, quantity issues, they can do it at this stage.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
So the net value of the invoice is good for discounting by the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, So up till this stage, you asked me that how does it work for an SME? So it works like this for an SME. So he doesn't really have to go to the customer. He doesn't really have to call the customer.
Mm-hmm.
He just has to upload the invoice, and everything else is taken care of by
Got
by
it.
M1xchange.
And the
Now,
customer, sorry to interrupt. Just a
yeah,
small question. In this case, the customer also has to have has been onboarded and have a TReDS or a desk, TReDS or an M1xchange desk present, right?
yes.
Which
Now,
is an officially appointed person.
absolutely. So what has now over a period of 7 years that the TReDS has been operating,
Mm-hmm.
what has happened is that we have given a solution to the customers that we have integrated with their ERP system.
Right.
Okay, so as a result, when the invoice comes for approval, the customer doesn't have to physically log in into the system. From the ERP system, we are able to identify whether the invoice has been approved for what value.
Got it.
Okay, so it becomes a ERP approved invoice.
Makes sense.
In case it is not yet approved in the ERP, then the invoice remains pending for approval.
Mm-hmm.
And once the customer has put the invoice in the ERP, only then we pick it up and then it becomes approved. So it may take few days if it is not approved.
Got it. Perfect. Understood.
Now that both buyer and seller, which is SME and the customer, both have approved the invoice, it is visible to the bank for discounting.
Right.
In the back end, M1xchange would have worked with the bank already, that if we get invoices, as in the example, from Tata Steel or from TVS Group, then which all banks in the country would like to take a risk on the invoices of Tata Steel and TVS Group. Okay. Now we have 62 banks on the platform, and the banks set up in their own ecosystem a limit for Tata Steel and a limit for TVS Group invoices of their vendors, not on the company, but for the invoices of their vendors. Okay. So they come and set it up on the platform. Now, whichever banks out of 60 banks, let's assume 20 banks have come and set it up on the platform.
Got it.
Now, whichever banks have set up limits on the platform, they will be able to see those invoices. And they will thereafter place their best price, which is a bid, for discounting those invoices. And basis the best bid, the SME will get his payment from the bank that is enabled by M1xchange. Now, what does that mean? That means the bank, let's say on 16th November, the invoice has been put on the system, approved invoice, and the banks are bidding. Today being a working day, let's say Saturday, the banks are bidding, and within seconds, the bids come, because now it's a running system. Hundreds and thousands of transactions are happening every minute.
Wow.
So the SME can accept the best bid there and then.
Got it.
Okay. So once he accepts the bid, say for example, they accept a bid from SBI, and there are, let's say for the day there are about 200 invoices on the platform. SBI has won the bid for 10. Punjab National Bank has won the bid for another 5, and so on and so forth. So different banks will win the bid for different invoices.
Understood.
The next day morning, that means the next working day, which will be Monday, we will be using. We are integrated with NPCI, and using the NPCI engine, we will be debiting the SBI Bank and giving the credit to the SME whose invoice has been submitted for
Got
payment. Okay,
Makes
so
sense.
that completes the transaction, and the SME has received the payment on Monday for the invoice submitted on 16th November. And now the invoice which is due, for example, in this example that we were discussing, the invoice which is due on 31st December, SME has been able to get his payment on Monday, which is 18th November.
Got it.
Okay, so therefore we call our tagline is tomorrow's money today.
Makes sense.
Okay, and now SME has to pay the discounting fee, which is the interest cost for the period 16th November to 31st December. That interest cost is decided by the bank basis the risk of the customer, that is Tata Steel or TVS in this example.
Right.
Now, Tata Steel and TVS, they are AA or AAA rated customers in the country, and their basis their credit rating, the rate of interest will be very, very fine. It could range in the range of about 7% per annum, 7.25% per annum, in that range. Now, for 45 days, pro rata interest will be calculated for 7%, that is 16th November to 31st December. Assuming these are 45 days, the system will calculate the interest and charge the SME, and the balance payment will be made to him.
Understood.
So therefore, if you look at it, SME has got his payment at 7% per annum discounted,
right?
Which was due on 31st December as on 18th November. And he can use these funds for his other business, for his business, and if he has borrowed funds at a higher, because most of his price points will be higher than 7%.
True.
I mean, his working capital will be anything between 10 to 11%. His unsecured credit will be ahead of 15%. So here he's got funding at 7%. He can immediately take it and leave his funds of higher cost. If he has not borrowed, then even 7% is his FDR rate today.
Right.
Yeah, he can park those funds in the fixed deposits.
Makes sense.
So for him, it's a win-win that he has been able to realize his funds, which are due 45 days later today, at a price point which is very, very competitive. He cannot get it on his own merit otherwise.
Of course.
And the most important point, which SMEs are realizing and have realized, and that's why they are coming in large numbers, is they have de-risked themselves.
True.
So the risk of collection from his customer has been passed on to the bank now.
Right.
If his customer delays the payment beyond 31st December, or his customer does not pay for any reason on 31st December, then there is no recourse on SME.
Got it. Okay.
So the recourse is completely on the bank now. And the recourse is with the bank on the customer directly, and the SME is out of the picture. So it's a beautiful process for an SME, that his risk is reduced, his cost of doing business is reduced. It's very easy that he doesn't have to sign paperwork with 60 banks. He's to sign paperwork with one of us.
Right.
He doesn't have to do KYC with 60 banks. He just has to do KYC with us. There is a flexibility with him. He can do discounting for n number of invoices as he may need. He doesn't need to, there's no perforce fixed pressure on him that he has to do for all. There is no fixed cost for him.
True.
So that way it is a very big win for him.
Indeed. No, I think this is really beautifully explained and in great detail. I think this clears out a lot of the air that was and a lot of confusion that was there in my mind. Thank you so much. Having said that, I personally feel this is a really great solution for MSMEs, given that one of the major advantages I see is that they're able to get the credit advantage of the credit score of the customer, which are for many MSMEs a large customers with good credit ratings. Like you said, like if you take here the example that you gave, Tata Steel or TVS, they would have, as you said, AAA ratings, and that would be a really cheap credit compared to what these MSMEs would get in the market, and that is essentially the arbitrage or the kind of benefit that they're able to derive out of this kind of a platform. And having said that, I think one thing that really I would want to understand, if you are kind of open to explaining that, is how would a platform like yourself make money in this entire journey?
Yeah. So we charge a variable fee for every transaction, and that variable fee is a small percentage, which is like an interest cost.
Right.
And it is added to the price, and it is charged to the SME, and it is a very, very reasonable number. It is not a very large number. So let's say in the example I was talking about, if the cost of funds is 7%, at the most it will become 7.25 or 7.3 or 7.5. That's about it, and on a per annum basis. So on a 45-day basis, it will not be more than 3 paisa, 4 paisa for an SME. So so that's how we charge as a revenue.
Understood. So as of now, it's only from the MSMEs, or are there other revenue lines that are being originated from banks and the customers as well?
So we charge the SME this price, and if there is any business, and if there is a business we are bringing to the bank, then we charge the bank.
Got it. Perfect. Also, recently, I think there was a new platform that was introduced, the Bharat Connect platform, that enables more seamless presentation of invoices, so as to say. So what is your view on that, and how do you think this, alongside that technology, can help scale it up?
Yeah, fantastic point, Shreyas. In fact, Bharat Connect, when it was launched in the last Fintech, we are connected with Bharat Connect.
Wow.
And the example was using M1xchange.
Yes.
And it was a live example which was shown on the screen to the honorable regulator, the RBI governor.
Right.
And wherein the one supplier gives goods and services to the other supplier, and the Bharat Connect records the transaction in the accounting system of both the buyer and the seller. Now, when the seller has to make the payment, or the buyer has to make the payment to the seller through Bharat Connect, we enable discounting on Bharat Connect so that the seller can get his payment before time if he wishes to.
Got it.
If he doesn't wish to, then he can get his payment as per the due date using Bharat Connect. And if he wishes to get it before time, then we pitch in and we make his payment before time, and then on the due date we collect from the buyer from the buyer on the due date using Bharat Connect and pay it back to the bank.
Understood.
So Bharat Connect is going to now take it to masses as the whole thing scales up.
Perfect. And what is the current scale of the industry, if you were to look at it from the point of view of number of transactions, essentially the number of factoring or the number of transactions that are happening?
Yeah. So the year in which we are, that is 24-25 financial year, the TReDS should be doing about transactions worth 2.5 lakh crore.
Wow. That's
okay, in this financial year. And these transactions are for SMEs logging in from more than 2,600 pin codes, different cities, and this will be each transaction is not more than, average is between 2 lakhs to 3 lakh rupees.
Wow.
Okay, so the volume of transactions will be this much. You can imagine that we are doing about 2.5 lakh crore, 3 lakh rupees average invoice, or 2.5 lakh rupees average invoice. So it will be running into crore of transactions.
Amazing. So this is essentially like creating an ecosystem that does an AUM equivalent of what one of the largest NBFCs in India does in a year?
Uh, uh, so in terms of AUM, because these invoices are average about 60 days, 90 days outstanding. In terms of AUM, you can say about it'll be 50,000 crore kind of an AUM at any point of time.
Wow, that's amazing. That's almost equivalent to any NBFC in the top 10 this thing in India.
Yeah.
That's a very significant scale in such a short span of 6-7 years.
Yeah, and Shaz, we fortunately that we are growing every year 100%.
Wow.
So same time last year, or the March 24 that has ended, the TReDS has done about 1,30,000 crore approximately, and March 25 we will be doing like 2.5 lakhs.
2.5 lakhs, almost double of that. Wow, that is amazing. And I think now, given that you have also gotten into a partnership with Bharat Connect and all of that, I think the volumes will scale up significantly even in the coming years as well. Talking about scale, right? There is always a point or an inflection point wherein emerging technologies come into the sway and kind of help you pump up those numbers even more. Do you see any specific technology that is probably not being adopted right now, or it's at nascent stage, but you do see a significant role that it can play in kind of improving the numbers or essentially increasing the number even more?
So technologically, there are various things that we are doing. I'll give you example of analytics, data analytics. So far, what I have explained you is that when an SME is giving goods and services to an enterprise corporate, which is a well-rated company in India, in the example. However, SME also works with smaller corporates who are not having that kind of rating, or the customer is an SME himself.
Right.
So in the Bharat Connect example, the two enterprises are SMEs themselves. Now, how does one do a digital transaction with a speed that when the buyer is an SME himself, then how does the bill discounting happen?
Right.
And how does a bank take a risk call on the SME buyer or a smaller buyer, even if it is not SME but not a rated buyer?
Indeed.
So what we've done is we have put analytics into the system. This we did through a sandbox in RBI in third cohort of lending, wherein we took partnership with few banks, and those banks advised us that what kind of data points they need for doing the credit analysis of the SME himself, who is the SME buyer.
Right.
And we are using cash flow based analytics. That means his bank statement analysis, his GST analysis, his repayment, other repayment history analysis, and more important, on the M1 platform, his relationship with his customers.
Understood.
Because he has now a good history of 5-6 years of working with multiple companies and his customers, and how much are the rejections, how are his quality parameters. Basis that we give a score to the SME.
Oh, okay. Understood.
Now this score actually democratizes him for getting a credit limit for himself.
Got it.
Right. And the data which is used for this score is visible to the bank.
Right.
And basis the credit analysis the bank feels, he can use that data point and give him a credit limit. So imagine an SME getting credit limit from 10 banks.
Wow.
Okay. So therefore he doesn't have to give paperwork or his bank statement analysis or his GST analysis to 10 banks. M1 has done it, given it to multiple banks, out of which 10 banks have come forward and liked it.
Understood.
And they have given a credit to the SME, let's say 1 crore, 2 crore, 3 crore at XYZ points. And and that SME can use for buying his raw material from another SME.
Got it.
Right. So essentially, this is one use of technology which has helped the taking the credit to the SME desk. And so now, therefore, if you look at it, we have connected the dot. On one side, if SME is working with a large enterprise, he is getting his receivable discounting. Now, the same SME is getting credit for taking his raw material from another SME. So, therefore, his payables has also been financed now.
True.
And the SME2 who has supplied to SME1, his receivables have gotten discounted. Right. So, therefore, in financial inclusion trail, it's going from an enterprise to an SME1, it's going from SME1 to SME2, and everyone is benefiting. Right. So this is where technologically data analytics has really helped. The second is, of course, as much we are getting integrated in the country. That means whether through Bharat Connect as an example that you took up. So we are getting connected to the various accounting systems, various payment systems in the country. So therefore, the data will flow, and as much this network becomes bigger, the more data will flow and more genuine transactions will be established.
Definitely.
The third, technologically, what we're doing is machine learning. That means the convenience and ease of use, the user experience. We have enhanced the user experience multi-notches once we brought it onto the mobile. Now the system, now the SME doesn't need to log in so frequently for accepting the price that the bank has offered. The system can accept the price. Because there is a precedence in the past, and if SME promoter is in the market or he's traveling, he doesn't need to log in. He can configure the system will automatically log in, will give the acceptance. Similarly, even the banks don't have to log in for bidding. The system places a bid on behalf of the bank.
Understood.
Okay, so the system has become very intelligent, and all the stakeholders, whether it's a bank, whether it's a enterprise customer, or whether it's an SME himself, all three don't need to log in. Once the invoice is submitted, it is full digital. The system plays the role of bidding, acceptance, digital transfer of money. So it's that seamless.
Wow, that is brilliant. And I think I really love the part of the first piece that you said, when using data analytics, it is actually empowering the MSMEs and giving them the credit line of their own. And also what is really brilliant is the part wherein you're automating the entire manual intervention required from the proprietor as well as from the banks, wherein there could be delays or human errors in the place. But if there is already been a precedence in the system, given that the banks are there for 6-7 years and there are bigger corporates who have been there for at least 4-5 years in the system, there is enough precedence to set that data and identify a good enough Venn diagram that kind of basically identifies the intersection between what a bank wants to bid and what a corporate wants to accept, or what an MSME wants to accept.
Absolutely.
That is really interesting to see, and I'm glad that this kind of technologies are making an impact at such a large scale. Having said that, I know we are slightly short of time. Just one final question before we kind of are done for today is, how do you see, and this is a really more of a, I would say, I forgot the term, but it's more of okay, I completely missed out on the term, but see, the idea is to just understand how would you see the macroeconomy evolve or being impacted if what you are building has been adopted by 30% of the MSMEs in India, right? How would you see that entire ecosystem evolve?
Yeah. So Shreyas, the biggest impact it will have on the economy is and it is already having, I would say, is the cost of doing business.
Right.
Okay. So the system is saving 7 to 8% cost of doing business of the amount discounted.
Right.
Okay. So, like I'm saying, 2.5 lakh crore. Now, on that 2.5 lakh crore, 7% in the economy is getting saved on a per annum basis. Right. So, 7% of 2 lakh crore, for simplicity purposes, is about 14,000 crore.
Right.
So, 14,000 crore cost of doing business has come down. And it has benefited either the SME or his customer, and therefore it has made the Indian economy competitive. Right. So otherwise, the same goods would have been priced at 14,000 crore higher price.
True.
Versus now when they are getting discounted. So that's the first straight impact, and that impact is now. Why I'm saying so is because it is visible in the financials of the SMEs as well as their customers. Many enterprises have negotiated their prices with the SMEs because they can see that the cost of doing financing the receivable has come down from 15 to 7. Therefore, when they are doing their costing, they are now repricing it.
Got it.
And SME is willingly repricing it because he's experiencing it. Okay, so this is one major impact. The second major impact is in terms of working capital management for an SME. Now he doesn't have to, he's not constrained by his collateral.
Right.
He's not constrained by his own credit worthiness in his financials. He can simply do as much business as he gets from the market, and grow with the business. He doesn't have to get constrained that I don't have a limit, I will not be able to service this business. Once he is serviced, he has enough cash flow that is rotating.
Right.
That is the point.
Perfect. No, I think this is brilliant, and over a longer period of time, I think we'll see the MSME ecosystem being more empowered and evolve a lot more quickly, and probably be able to leverage these entire platform to grow faster, as well as we'll see more and more businesses coming in. So I'm super excited about this entire space, and I'm thank you so much. I think this was really insightful. When I jumped into the conversation, I was probably not that well read about the ecosystem to understand, and I was a bit more confused about what's exactly happening. But I think this answered all my questions, and I think it was really insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me over, and I'm so glad that we discussed this.
Indeed, likewise.
Good day. Have a good weekend.
Thank you so much. You too. Take care.